My name is Vincent Hinton, and I'm an assistant professor in the College of Ed. Specifically today, I stand before you as the diversity chair, and I just wanted to share a little bit with you about our program this morning, Courageous Conversations. Today, we are very lucky to have Leisha Brooks, the Outreach Director with the Southern Poverty Law Center, to kind of share with us her gifts as it relates to diversity. But I wanted to give you a little bit more clarity and go over a few things with you before she starts. So the College of Education at ASU, we define diversity as the differences among groups of people and individuals based on gender, SES, exceptionalities, geographical areas to include national and international areas, ethnicity, race, language, sexual orientation, and religion. And throughout each program, our desire is to address all of these differences among the groups of people on campus and in our local community. So why Courageous Conversations? One of the things that we wanted to do was to create an environment where students, faculty, staff, and guests of ASU, stakeholders, those in the community that wanted to be a part of our conversations, to find a safe place to discuss issues related to diversity. A safe place where people will feel comfortable to talk about those issues, but then also there may be some slight discomfort as we talk about diversity as well. But because we're in a safe place, we'll feel comfortable to talk about those issues. Throughout the spring semester, you'll see flyers such as this one, speaking to Courageous Conversations, and I just wanted to briefly go over a couple of the future dates. This afternoon, we'll have a dialogue at 5:45 about Courageous Conversations, taking a different perspective, but still talking about diversity, and I'll be leading that session this evening. And again in February on the 26th and March 19th, and you'll see a couple other dates on the next slide. In April, we also are partnering with the Health Center, Health University Wellness Center on campus. Gwen Mann, who's the director of the center, will be coordinating an effort with Emory University to present our final session in April. So there will be more information to come forward. One of the other things that we're doing in the College of Ed in promoting Courageous Conversations is to create safe places for our students. So throughout the semester, you will see, or throughout the building that is, you'll see signs like this posted in all of the classrooms. You'll also see them on some of the faculty or staff office doors. And if you have a concern related to any issue of diversity and you need someone to speak with, by all means, the faculty members that have this place on their door, they're letting you know that that's a safe place for you to come and talk about whatever issue that you may have related to diversity. And the final thing that I'd like to share with you before our speaker comes before us to engage us into dialogue is to share with you a couple of handouts. One is that is everyone signed in this morning, and we would ask if you would please sign in on future conversations that we have, but also there's a handout that we're asking you to complete. At the very top is just basic demographic information that we can take back and to use to get a sense of who's in our audience. At the bottom, it's assessing your comfort with diversity. What we're asking you to do is to look at each one of the areas to the left and to determine your level of comfort. For example, your level of comfort with people with a different religious view than yours. Are you comfortable or extremely comfortable having a dialogue with someone with a different religious view? Or would that be something that you're slightly uncomfortable or uncomfortable or extremely uncomfortable? If you would, take a few minutes to fill that part out. And then on the back, once we complete our dialogue today, we'd ask you to just assess a few questions as it relates to your understanding of diversity, the definition being defined. Did you have an opportunity to engage with other peers in the audience, other faculty and staff in the audience? And then we'd like for you to look at the last 2 points. I have an appreciation of how diversity may influence my personal decisions But then we are a college of ed. We also want to make sure that we're preparing you for decisions you may make on a professional level, which is the very last point. That you have an appreciation of how diversity may influence your professional decisions. So throughout the semester, we'll have this handout for every student, faculty, staff, or visitor that may come completed. And then we also want to take it a step further to find out what is it that you want to know more about. So in the very last block, we'd like for you to discuss one thing you may have learned today, and then also one thing that you'd like to know more about. And as you exit today, if you would turn that in, either at the table with our student volunteers, or there may be someone standing at the door to collect them. And the other handouts that I would like to draw your attention to, on the table, the Southern Poverty Law Center has provided some material. And if you would take a few minutes to pick up those materials on your way out if you did not pick them up as you entered the building. And I'm sure Alicia may share more information about that as well. So the final thing that I'd like to do before I sit down and turn it over to Alicia, Mrs. Brooks, is you guys see the word reach. And I want you, if you would, just take the next 15 seconds and I just want you to reach. Reach as high as you can as you sit in your chair, just reach. Now just reach a little further. Reach a little further. All right, so give yourselves a round of applause for that. And I want to ask the question, how many of you, when I said to reach just a little bit further the second time, you actually did reach a little bit further? Absolutely, many of you did that, and that's what courageous conversation is all about. Sometimes it may be a little comfortable when we reach, but we all know just through the exercise we just quickly demonstrated that we have the capacity to reach a little bit further. We have the capacity to reach out to someone else that may be different from us. And we're hoping that this spring semester that we can do just that. Take you from one level of comfort to a more comfortable level of comfort by having a safe place to talk about those conversations that may come up related to diversity. So without further ado, I turn it over to Mrs. Alicia Brooks.
You can probably hear me. I have a little bit of a cold. Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Dr. Hinton, for inviting me. As you know, I'm with the Southern Poverty Law Center. The briefest of backgrounds for you is that I serve as the Outreach Director for SPLC, but I also run the Civil Rights Memorial Center, and I invite each of you to come out. Now, I am honored by the invitation to come and talk with you and engage with you in courageous conversation about diversity. It's a really important topic in my life. I believe that, you know, you've heard that diversity is our strength, and I really truly believe that. As we look at the demographic changes that are happening across the country, we may not be able to visualize them as clearly in Alabama or across the Southeast, but as you may have heard, the composition of the United States is changing pretty dramatically. You've probably read reports from demographers that predict that the majority population in the United States will be people of color by 2030, some say 2040, and it's true. And as we prepare for that demographic shift, it becomes more and more important for us to talk about diversity. As Dr. Hinton mentioned, and I'm really pleased to see, that race is not the only aspect of diversity that you all are going to explore through these courageous conversations. You're going to explore all aspects of diversity. Now, what I want to do, because we're going to have a conversation, is that I'm going to come down there and we're going to have a conversation. So following up on Dr. Hinton's reach metaphor, I'm going to invite you all to you on that side to come in here, and you on this side to come in there. And then we're just going to talk right here in the center. Because to have a courageous conversation is not to listen to me make a presentation. Okay? Thank you so much. What is diversity? What's diversity? You, sir. What is your name?
Bradley Duncan.
Mr.
Bradley Duncan.
Mr. Duncan, Bradley Duncan. What's diversity?
Diversity is a mixture of, it can be a mixture of different things such as culture, religious background, educational background.
Stop. Mr. Duncan is saying that diversity is a mix of things, different cultures, different backgrounds, religions. What else did you say?
educational background.
Education, okay, thank you, ma'am.
Differences.
Differences.
Whether it's in age,
Yep.
whether it's in gender, whether it's in education, differences.
That's right. And so if we could substitute one word definition for diversity, it would be that. Diversity is nothing more than difference, right? Difference. And we all have differences. We're all different from one another, thank God. Mr. Duncan, what you were listing off are really what we call aspects of diversity, right? Education, background, culture, religion, age, okay. What's identity? Identity.
Who you see yourself as.
Been in this workshop before. What's your name?
I'm Martel, but everybody calls me Hope, and I prefer it that way.
Hope? Okay, Hope says that identity is how you see yourself, and that's absolutely correct. I would add that it's not only how you see yourself, but it's also how other people see you, right? And sometimes we have some difficulty in accepting that part of identity. Sometimes people want to say, well, I'm me. You know, you may see something else, but I'm me. I am the me that I am. I'm the me that I am based on my engagements and interactions with you and how you see me, right? That helps to form and shape who I am, right? So, before we begin this conversation, I just wanted to be clear on diversity, one, is difference, and identity is how I see myself and how others see me. And those are really good things to keep in mind as you explore these conversations. As you begin to get into it deeply, just remember those two things and you'll get through it really easily. I wanted to do just a little exercise that shows kind of the aspects of our diversity as a group. It's going to require you to stand and sit. So I want to invite you to just put your things to the side. If it's uncomfortable for you to stand and sit, and I don't mean just like because you're tired uncomfortable, I mean physically uncomfortable, for you to get up and sit down, then do that, then raise your hand. But if you can, again using the metaphor for reach and do that. Stand and sit. This exercise is going to be done in silence, and I'm going to ask you to just continually reflect upon the responses, okay? I'll ask you to stand if you're in agreement with the statement, remain seated if you're not, okay? And I'll read it twice. Please stand if you are the youngest child in your family. The youngest child in your family. Take a moment to look around. Notice who's standing. Notice who's seated. Those of you that are seated, think for a moment about your ideas and assumptions about people who are the youngest in their family. Those that are standing, think about your experience as the youngest person in your family. Thank you. Be seated. Please stand if you are the oldest person in your family, the eldest. Notice who's standing, notice who's seated. Again, those who are standing, think about that experience as the oldest person in your family. What does that mean for you? And those who are seated, what are our ideas about people who are the oldest in their family? What are our assumptions, ideas, stereotypes, expectations for people who are the eldest? Thank you. Be seated. Please stand if you're the middle child. Middle child. Thinking about what we know of or what we believe to be true for middle children. Those who are standing, what have you heard about what it means to be a middle child? How does that comport with your experience? Thank you. Be seated. Please stand if you're an only child. An only child and the eldest. Think about that. We hear lots of things about only children. What does it mean to be the only child? Thank you. Please stand if you are a parent. about your role as a parent, your experience as a parent. How has that informed and shaped who you are, your identity? Think about your role as a parent in terms of your identity. The primary part of your identity. Those that are seated, your ideas about people who are parents. Thank you, be seated. Please stand if you are a woman. Look around. Those who are standing with you. You're seated. The ratio of women to men. Women who are standing, think about, reflect back on that experience and your experience of being a woman. When you first realized that, what it means. Those ideas and thoughts, what you were told about what it means to be a woman, what it means to be a girl. Those messages that you received as a young girl, the messages that you receive today. How do they inform who you are, your identity as a woman? Men, think about that too. Messages you may have delivered to women about what it means to be a woman. Thank you. Be seated. Please stand if you are a man. Look around. Connect with the other men in the room. What were you told about being a man? What it means to be a man? Try if you can to recollect that first message. When you were a young boy and told what it means to be a man. What you're told today. Women, notice the men in the room. Connect for a moment with your expectations about them and men. What you expect of them. How you identify them. Thank you. Please stand if you speak more than one language. Speak more than one language. Those who's standing. Those who's seated. Those who are standing. Think about that experience. Was it your first language? What was your first language, rather? And how was it to acquire your second? What do people think about you when you speak another language? What does it mean to you to speak more than one language? Is it tied to any other part of your identity? Thank you. Please stand if you have teenage children. Teenage children. Notice, no one is standing. What does it mean? Why would you even have that statement? What does it mean for someone in their identity, relative to their identity, to have teenage children? How might that impact who a person is? Please stand if you like to dance. Who like to dance? Say you're good at it. Who like to dance? Look around. Notice who's standing. Notice who's seated. Think about that. You like to dance. Do you dance?
Yes.
Feel comfortable dancing? Those that are seated, please stand if there was ever a time when you did like to dance, but then it changed. Think about what that might mean, you and your personality, who you are. Thank you. Please stand if you have ever dealt with alcohol or drug abuse in your family. Ever dealt with alcohol or drug abuse in your family? Look around, those who's standing, those who's seated. Really take a moment to reflect back on that experience. Has it shaped you in significant ways? Who you are? Who you were? Please stand if you have played team sports. If you've ever played team sports. Go around and do team sports players. What does it mean to have played team sports? What did you learn from that experience? How's that changed who you are? Carry those lessons with you today. Can other people tell? Thank you, be seated. Please stand if you have grandchildren. Grandchildren, grandparents, how that continues to help shape who you are. Those that are seated that don't have that experience, have you ever noticed how it shapes who a person is to have grandchildren, who they become? Thank you. Please stand if you know someone who has passed away due to AIDS. You know someone who's died from AIDS, HIV. For those that are standing, take a moment, just honor that memory, that person. Reflect back on that time when that person passed away, and what that did to you, for you. And how that experience might have helped to shape who you are. Those that are seated, notice who's standing. Think if you can about how that experience might have shaped them. In what ways? Thank you. Please stand if you identify yourself as a person of color. If you identify yourself as a person of color. Think what that means to you. What does that mean to you to identify as a person of color? What does that mean? Why do you identify in that way? What does it say about who you are? And what you want other people to know about you? Thank you. Please stand if you're a Muslim. Muslim. Notice no one standing. What does that mean in this community, this group, if there are no Muslims? How does that affect the group when adherents of the largest religion in the world are not represented in this group? Please stand if you're a Buddhist. Think for a moment what that might mean. Do you know any Buddhists? Do you know what it means to be a Buddhist? Please stand if you're a Catholic. We're at one time where notice who's standing, notice who's seated. Those who are standing, think about your experience as a Catholic here in the Southeast and in Alabama in particular. That might mean how that frames your Catholicism, your relationship to Catholicism. The support that you receive, the support that you don't receive. The acknowledgement you get or you don't get as part of being a Christian, or you're Catholic. Your relationship to the Catholic Church. Whether or not you're still connected or not. How that has shaped who you are. Thank you. Please stand if you're a Protestant. If you know what Protestant means. Protestant would be like Lutheran, Baptist, Presbyterian. All of those other Christian religions. Protestant. Notice who's standing. And even as I listed off the different religions within under the umbrella of Protestants, think about the diversity that might be in this group relative to that, and why you don't identify as Protestant. Thank you. Please stand if you're Jewish. You're Jew. Jewish. Think about what that means to have no Jews in this community. Know any Jewish people? How have your relationships with Jews shaped who you are? Please stand if you're a Latter-day Saint, Mormon. Are you Mormon? Think about the, let's say, lack of diversity amongst the different religious groups and what that might mean and how that might affect who you are as a community. Please stand if you organize your life around spirituality. You organize your life around your spirituality in some way. Participate in some ritual, you do something every day connected to your spirituality. You organize your life around this. Think about those rituals, how you organize your life, why you do it, what it provides for you. About also, do you think that that's reflective? Do people who meet you, can they recognize that? Do they know that? This daily ritual. Thank you. Please stand if you do not follow a religion. Be risky. Thank you. Think about why that might be risky in this community. You're seated. Also think about what that means to you. What your thoughts and ideas and assumptions are about people who don't follow a particular religion. Do you really think about them? How do you see them? How do you see yourself? Thank you. Please stand if you identify as a feminist. Feminist. See that Beyonce sign? She said she was a feminist. Feminist. Notice everyone standing. Think about it like if you really know what feminist means. We'll talk about it later. Thank you. Stand if you have lived in another country. You lived in a country other than the U.S. for a significant amount of time. You lived in another country. Reflect back on that experience. How different it was. How similar it was. What are the things that you learned from that experience that you carry with you today? Those that are seated, look who's standing. Notice who's standing. Would you have assumed that it would be someone else standing? Thank you. Please stand if you have been unemployed in your adult life. At some point in your adult life, you were unemployed. Not by choice. You're unemployed not by choice in your adult life. Think about that last experience of unemployment. It wasn't your choice. Feeling, thinking, what it did to you, how people saw you. Those that are seated, notice who's standing, and think about your ideas and assumptions about adults who are unemployed. Thank you. Please stand if you have ever visited someone in prison. Not for work, but you visited someone. Prison or jail. Visited someone. Those who are standing, think back to that experience. Walking into the prison. The process that you have to go through to see someone. Why you did it. experience did to you, what that experience did for the person that you went to visit, and the lasting impact it had on you. Visitors see to think about what, if anything, is coming up as you look at the people that are standing. What are your thoughts and ideas and assumptions about why they visited someone in prison? What experience they had to go through. Thank you. Please stand if you consider yourself an activist. You consider yourself an activist. Activist. As you're standing, connect with your activism. Does it connect to one or two or more issues, one particular issue? You're an activist about one thing, but not about another. What is your activism connected to? And how did it begin? Those that are seated, think about your interest in issues and why you're not standing. Thank you. Please stand if you play a musical instrument. You can play a musical instrument. Not like, 20 years ago when you were in school, but you can actually still play one. Do you play your musical instrument? And if so, do you get anything from it? What does it do for you? To you? And for people you might play for. Those that are seated, think about how playing a musical instrument might impact who somebody is, what that might do for them, how that might help shape them. Thank you. Please stand if you were born in another country. Not only lived in another country, but you were born in another country other than the U.S. Notice who's standing. These people standing will be immigrants. Those that are seated, think about that. Think of immigrants to the U.S. Who are you thinking of? These people? What does it now mean for you to know that they're immigrants? How does that affect how you see them? Those that were born in another country, think about you. Think about that experience. When you first got here, how it is today, how connected you are still to that experience. Your experience with your home country. All that. Thank you. Please stand if you know how to sew. Impressive. You know how to sew. And do sew. Not just say no. We all know how to sew. What does that say about you? What does it say about us that are seated that don't know how to sew? Did someone ever try to teach us? But we don't know how. They do. Okay, thank you. Please stand if you have visited someone in a psychiatric institution. Visited someone in a psychiatric institution not for work. Similar to what I had people think about that visited a prison, think about, go back to that experience. Be hard, but go back to that experience. How was that? Walking in the door, pulling up to the parking lot, walking in the door, waiting for the person you were visiting. How was that? In what ways, if any, did it shape who you are? Did that experience stay with you? Also think about your thoughts and ideas about who people are who are institutionalized. Thank you. We're almost done. Please stand if you have ever taken part in a demonstration, protest. Again, not for work. You participate in a demonstration or protest. Go back to your most recent one. What was it about? Why were you there? What did you do? What, if any, connection did you have with people who were not in the protest, like people who were watching, people who were passing by? What did you feel? That are seated, think about why you're still seated. Would there ever be an occasion for you to participate in a demonstration? Would there ever be something where you would want to go out and demonstrate? Thank you. Please stand if you are legally married. Legally married. We'll say legally married in Alabama. Or your marriage is recognized in the state of Alabama. Those who are standing, think about if that even means anything, what that means to you. That you're legally married, and maybe some of the people that are seated are not legally married in the eyes of Alabama. What does that mean? All of us think about your thoughts and ideas about what it means to be legally married. Why there's a lot going on right now around marriage equality. What are your thoughts and ideas about that? Thank you. Please stand if you're close to someone who has a physical, mental, or learning disability. Close to someone who has a physical, mental, or learning disability. Could be someone in your family, could be someone in your extended circle, you're close with them. Think about that person, who that person is, person or person. What has that relationship done for you? How has that shaped who you are, being close to this person? How might other people see you when you're with that person? What do they think about you? Thank you. Please stand if you're outspoken about issues of sexual orientation or sexual identity, gender expression. You're outspoken. You're the one that's going to say something. What prompts that? Prevents you from not speaking out? Why do you feel like you have to? And how have you been received? How has that shaped who you are? How do other people see you because of your outspokenness on this issue? Thank you. Please stand if you're a vegetarian. Oh my God, vegetarians. And I don't have to ask about vegans then. Please stand if you've been in the military. No one in the military in Alabama. Last one. Please stand if you have a tattoo. I have one too. Think about when you got that tattoo. What it meant for you, what you were trying to say, what you were trying to affirm, what you wanted to show, what it meant. Do you share your tattoo with other people? To say anything about who you are? Remain standing if you have more than one. 2. What is 2? 3? I win. 5. They're all a little small. That's it. Okay, this is what I want you to do. I want you to talk to the person that's sitting closest to you about what statements really made you think and what you went in on. What you noticed about yourself, your own responses, and what you noticed about how other people responded, okay? You just stay on topic and stay in the conversation. Sir, if you catch them, because they came in a little bit late, but I think they saw most of it. You guys, yeah, you three talk. Finish this up, I think. Thank you. And really, I really don't want to encourage you to thank people, because it's always a gift when somebody shares some of themselves, their stories with you. We need to see it that way. It's a gift, and we get to know people beyond the surface. We only have a couple of minutes. Is there something that anyone wanted to share about what you learned about yourself? Yes, ma'am. Why don't you stand so they can hear you?
What I learned about myself is that I'm challenged by the English language, because when you mention religion, I have a faith, I have a belief, but I don't put it in a religious context. I also had an issue with the English language and how we define who's an immigrant and who's indigenous, because I'm an indigenous woman. And in everything that you were sharing, I found cultural conflicts with concepts and thoughts. Not in a negative way, it's just apparent to me.
That's great. No, thank you. I appreciate that. I don't often get that perspective or that feedback, so thank you. I appreciate that. Hope, did you want to say something?
As far as I go, I realized that I was really, well, I've realized it before, but now I've realized it was almost negative, because I'm really judgmental. And there were a lot of things that when people didn't stand, I was like, why? And I was almost angry. I was really, it took a lot for me to not be like, why? Why aren't you standing? You should be. You should definitely be standing right now. And that's something that I realized that I had to work on, especially now, because the silence helped me to really think about it. And after I said why, and I got a chance to sit down and think about some of the questions, I was like, why does it matter? Why do you care that that person didn't stand up? What is it to you? And so I think that probably a lot more people probably took that out, like, why did I even care? Like, you know, and I think that it opened up my mind to how we as humans tend to judge people or prejudge them before we even get a chance to know, you know, who they are or what they are, because we already have an idea of who we think they should be. And so that's something that really, I think I learned about myself.
Thank you, Hope. You're exactly right. We're judgmental people, we are. And I would encourage you to think about, instead of concentrating on kind of what other people didn't do, what people do or didn't do, there's so much, and I'm talking about myself, there's so much that I can just work on with me. Do you know what I mean? Like, and maybe I could be empathetic. Well, maybe, gosh, maybe they hadn't been in situations where they've been so upset where they had to, like, respond. You know what I mean? When I think back on my own personal activism or in participating in demonstrations, it may come from a place where I experienced a lot of pain or whatever. And maybe they didn't go through that, so good for them. You know what I'm saying? So, we never know what it is that moves people to do something or keeps people from doing something. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Yes, ma'am. There's choice. There's choice. There's choice. And then we're called on to respect all choices. And the only choice I'm responsible for really is myself. Right. Anybody else? Mr. Duncan? You want to say anything? Are you sure? Okay. Well, I really, really appreciate it. And I really want this to be the start of your courageous conversations. And sharing, don't get me wrong, like sharing in this way, just standing and acknowledging who you are and what your experiences are, come with some risk, right? It takes courage to tell the truth, to stand up and tell the truth, acknowledging at the same time that you were as truthful as you possibly could be, and maybe you weren't, you didn't stand and acknowledge all statements just because you didn't feel it safe to do so. But as you move forward with this series, these conversations, really push yourself, reach to tell the truth, your truth, and really push yourself to listen to what other people are saying, right? That's how we grow. And that's how we're going to work it out together, because if we don't, we're not going to stay in our separate little areas. I have a sheet that's a little exercise that you call it homework, but I think it's really good. On one side, it asks you to identify who's in your circle. You can write down, you put down yourself and then 4 other people, and then you identify kind of who they are by race, ethnicity, age, education, religion, marital status, gender, sexual orientation, language. Who are they? Who are your friends? Who are your closest friends? Because what we find is, if your circle is tight just like you, everybody, the thinking, everything, all your experiences are going to be just like you, right? And on the back, it has, it gives you an opportunity to look at these identity characteristics a little more closely. So do this for yourself and share it with a friend or a family member. It'd be good kind of conversation starters. Okay? So thank you very much. I appreciate you all coming.